The U.S. anticipates that Israel will approve the Gaza ceasefire agreement if Hamas does. According to National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby, every expectation exists within the U.S. government that Israel will accept a ceasefire proposal that would start with a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza if Hamas accepts the deal. Before the war comes to an end permanently, the three-pronged strategy outlined by President Joe Biden last week calls for a surge in humanitarian relief and the swap of certain hostages for Palestinian inmates. However, certain government officials in Israel have strongly opposed the proposal. The talks take place while violence rages in Rafah, which was severely targeted by Israeli aircraft over the weekend. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, reports that after inhabitants were compelled to evacuate, all 36 of its shelters in the Rafah region are now vacant. Estimates set the number of displaced individuals in Khan Yunis and several areas of central Gaza at 1.7 million. In an interview with ABC News on Sunday morning, Mr. Kirby stated that everyone expected Israel would say yes to the proposed ceasefire agreement, provided that Hamas agrees. He stated, "We're awaiting an official response from Hamas, and the U.S. hoped that both parties would consent to begin the plan's first step as soon as possible." Mr. Kirby stated that two sides would sit down and try to negotiate what Phase 2 could look like, and when that could begin, during the first 6-week break in hostilities. Last week, during a televised speech, Mr. Biden declared that all male soldiers and other surviving prisoners would be repatriated as part of the plan's second phase. Then, the cessation of hostilities permanently would replace the ceasefire. But if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu approved the agreement, two far-right Israeli ministers threatened to resign and bring down the nation's ruling coalition on Saturday. Itamar Ben-Gvir, Minister of National Security, and Bezalel Smotrich, Minister of Finance, stated that they resisted making any agreements before Hamas was annihilated. In the same vein, Mr. Netanyahu has maintained that there won't be a truce until all hostages are freed and Hamas's military and political apparatus is destroyed. For his part, Mr. Kirby stated that U.S. intelligence now holds the opinion that Hamas has suffered such severe military setbacks that it is unable to launch another offensive, similar to the one that its forces carried out on October 7th. "We haven't stated that they don't pose a threat to the Israelites today. They do, of course," he stated, "but they don't have the military capabilities to do what they did." Another event on Sunday was the announcement by the Maldives administration that Israeli nationals would not be allowed to enter the island chain in the Indian Ocean. This prompted Israel's foreign ministry to advise its citizens to stay away from the Maldives. Less than 1% of all tourists to the Maldives last year were Israelis, numbering about 11,000 visitors. The health ministry, which is managed by Hamas, claims that since the battle began, more than 36,000 people have died in Gaza. When Hamas terrorists stormed Israel in October, they killed over 1,200 people and kidnapped 252 more, sending them back to Gaza as prisoners. This marked the beginning of the conflict. President Biden has been under increasing political pressure in the U.S. to do more to press the opposing factions to engage in negotiations and to reverse the degree of U.S. support for Israel. His other ex-wives are American model and actress Jerry Hall, Scottish-born journalist Anna Mann, and Australian flight attendant Patricia Booker. Former Russian oil millionaire Alexander Zhukov was Ms. Zhukova's previous husband, and their daughter Dasha, a socialite and businesswoman, was married to Russian tycoon Roman Abramovich until 2017. In the 1950s, Rupert Murdoch started his career in Australia. In 1969, he eventually acquired the UK's News of the World and Sun newspapers. Later on, he bought several U.S. newspapers, such as the Wall Street Journal and New York Post. He established Fox News in 1996, which is currently the U.S.'s most popular TV news network. Mr. Murdoch is still the proprietor of hundreds of local, national, and worldwide media businesses through News Corp, which was established in 2013. There had been controversy during his career. The infamous UK phone hacking incident that broke when it became apparent that the News of the World had listened to the voicemails of slain schoolgirl Millie Dowler was one of his most disastrous moments. Mr. Murdoch declared in September of last year that he was going to relinquish control of his media business, giving his son Lachlan full control, and thereafter becoming chairman emeritus of News Corp and Fox.